the only difference between like a regular chick and an OnlyFans girl, the sex worker, the OnlyFans girl, etc., they're just going to be more pronounced in the way they do things. It doesn't change the fact that like they have the same natural attraction triggers, proclivities, whatever. It's just that the OnlyFans girl or the streamer or the entertainer, they might just be a bit more ostentatious about it, but that doesn't change the fact that like they're both like still looking for the same.
So, do you think you've been doing this too long?
Look, I do it for the people so they can see the bull, right? You know, and it's crazy because it's like 6 years later they're doing. It's just getting worse, by the way. I've noticed a trend where like they just get worse and worse and worse progressively. And I just see like it's a noticeable difference where even 6 years later, like the girls are worse than like the before. And like a 21-year-old in 2020 is not as bad as a 21-year-old in 2026.
Yeah,
it's night and day, dude.
True.
It's really bad. So this is really for these guys so they can see like what's going on here. Like this is like what you guys have to deal with, dude. It's insane.
At some point, someone's gonna have to make a montage of like the girls from like when we first started, like 2021, 2022, and like now, like just to get that comparison, because it's like, I mean, you've been doing this for a long time, obviously.
Yeah,
I remember.
Yeah, I just have less patience for it.
I remember.
Like I have no problem. Like just telling them I'll get the fuck out.
So let's go back in time. Give me that sound effect.
Yeah.
Give me that sound effect. There we go. Let's go back in time. Okay. To the foggy days of January of 2021, and I was on this show. I was in the old studio, and we were on this show, and you brought me on to like debaters. I talked to some chick who I don't know who she was. She was like a psychologist. She taught at a college or something like that. She came in here and she was with her other girlfriend.
Yeah.
And before we even started the show, the other girl started mouthing off to you, and you're like, "Hey, it's my show. Get out."
Yeah.
Right? And we weren't even live. It was just before the show even started. And then we went live, and then we had the discussion and everything. It's still archived somewhere. I know it is. It's on YouTube somewhere. But that was the very first. I was here for the very first Frank Castle that no one ever saw. And I think afterwards I said, "Man, you should have let her stay on the show."
Yeah.
And then kicked her off of the show when we were doing that.
Yeah. No, I let them do their whatever. But like, dude, that was just so irritating. I'm seeing her like doing this and shit. I'm like, yo, what the fuck is wrong? Like,
yeah.
I got all A's. You're still like, it's like, it's insane. Don't know percentages and shit. It's like, bro, what the f?
That percentages thing is real. Bro, I've had so many girls come on and I realize that they don't not understand the question. They do not understand that a percentage is 1/100th of the whole. Like, they legitimately don't understand. It's 1 over the denominator of 100. They don't understand what percentages are.
I think men's only real recourse now at this point is like, you just have to be as fit and make as much money as possible. Like, you literally have to get in a position of dominance so you can just like tell, shut the fuck up, and then like also have the ability to like get another girl should your girl like disobey you. Because like I honestly think at this point the natural proclivity, and we're seeing this have higher and higher disapproval ratings of men and have less and less respect for men. Because even in the past 6 years that I've done this, like I've just noticed it become more and more and more disrespectful. And the thing that's like scary to me is like, wait, they're doing this to me on my show with 30,000 people watching. What are they going to do to you when you're by yourself in the house? But like, and you're a regular guy that works an honest job, making $50K per year, $60K per year.
The thing is, like, their men in general are acquiescing to what they are asking for, and their approval of those men is less. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like you're getting the things you're asking for. Now we're all afraid to approach you. We're all said now it's yes means yes. High levels of consent. Yeah. You're getting the things you want and hate us more, which was our point in the beginning, which is we need to as men need to be able to maintain boundaries. Obviously, I'm not saying, with the sexual assault stuff, yet no means no, of course. But what I'm saying is, well, we have these situations where if we maintain our boundaries, then it's seen as misogynistic when it really is the only way to maintain a relationship, period. One of those boundaries is I'm going to do things that make me maximally attractive to the opposite sex and successful. And me doing those things, a lot of times it's going to annoy my girlfriend. It's going to annoy her when other like me or find me attractive. And when I get that pushback, now it's like, am I listening to Oprah Winfrey, right? Or am I listening to Rolo Tomassi? Who am I listening to at that moment? Can I maintain my frame? And if I maintain my frame, I say, hey, listen, honey, it's not my fault that others find me attractive. I went to the gym and your friend stared at me. I didn't f her, so like, I don't understand what you're mad about. I'm not going to apologize to you for that. The
scary part is like men have to overtly do this now. Like you go back, 1956, like you didn't have to sit there and constantly have to put your in her place or assert dominance all the time.
There was a role. There was a social contract.
Yeah, like it was like there was a line. It was an invisible line, but she knew not to cross it. She knew what she could say, what she could do, what she can't do. Blah blah blah. Now it's like all these guardrails are gone, and it's like in 2026, as a guy, you have to constantly demonstrate that you're the boss to them to remind them that they're still the. Because when they walk outside, they're told they can do anything a man can do, right? So it's like you're constantly fighting this, I hate to say it, you're constantly fighting feminist propaganda that's indoctrinated into your girl from the time she's a child until she becomes an adult. She gets in a relationship with you. She responds favorably to your masculinity because that's what she's naturally hardwired to do. But when she goes outside, she hears this stupidity again. Oh, I'm a strong boss, babe. And you constantly have to fight this. This is what I've realized, like, from talking to these women, is like, they're in a weird state where part of them is like, I wanted a guy that could put me on my place, but I'm going to still be in it and hope that I still find him. And it's like, I'm sorry. Like, you're not going to, you're probably not going to find him. But it's like this weird, I call it the double dip conundrum, where it's like, I want to have the benefits of have a career and be able to be a strong bitch. But at the same time, I want a guy that has that too. And it's like, you're not going to get both, man.
I'll tell you here's, okay, so everything, this is like a conversation we've had before. Like you and I have this all the time. I've talked to you about this, like, what's
but they'll enjoy it, so it's fine.
For 6 years now. But the thing is this, and now that I got you here at this table, I want to bring this up, is we're getting to the point right now when we were talking about the adolescent show, and then of course the inside the manosphere with Louis Theroux, and everybody wants to run you up the flagpole. And I'll tell you what's funny is
he added the
of course he did, but because he's looking for the most extreme examples, it literally says that from the beginning, like from the jump. It says, I'm looking for the most outlandish, people he can find, right? But from that whole perspective defines what everybody is applying to the manosphere and the red pill space right now as this is what these guys are about, right? So when we have this conversation, we say you have to perform, right? Your respectability, has to be up to a point where you have to perform to elite levels right now. So you've got to get your money, you've got to be in good shape, you got to run gear, you've got to make X amount of dollars, you got to do all these things. Now people hear that and then they go, oh, these guys are just so over the top, they're masculine supremacists, or they're chauvinists or something like that.
And then you see that and only are sleeping with these 10% of men.
No, and here's the thing that kills me is like they'll come at us and give us shit for that. Yeah. But then they'll go and they'll look at Alex Cooper playing to 6 to 10 million views per episode, saying exactly the same thing. Yeah. Or then I got to listen to these like Rob Henderson or these other guys are coming in here saying this is what the manosphere is really saying, and everything that we just said right now, it'll get distorted into something about like, these guys think that you should just dominate your. Or what is it? Or like they'll turn like neg hits into, well, you got to insult her because if you insult her, then she'll like you. And it's like, no, don't. It's like there's so much more. There's like 25 years of mystery method all the way up to, we understand why that works. Nobody's saying insult her. It's a backhanded compliment.
Have you noticed that they don't do boot camps in America anymore?
No, of course not. And so what they do is they just throw this shit out there and they distort it to the point, like everything about the conversation that we just had, like right now in the last 5 minutes, it'll get distorted into, well, these guys always say X, and it's like, no, we're basically throwing out information that it's pretty much common knowledge. You can go pick it up if you're that interested in it. But because it's coming from us, because it's coming from him or you or me or anybody else who's been in this space for as long as we have, we're misogynists, we're chauvinists, we're toxically masculine, or whatever buzzword you want to attach to that. But if you see a chick on TikTok saying exactly the same thing, from Charlize Theron was on there saying exactly the same thing. Even the girl that we showed on the clip here a little while ago saying she wants to fuck a hot guy, but she can't understand why she can't get the intelligent, funny guy who, like, it's basically cads versus dads. She's saying exactly the same thing. But when she says it, it's like, oh, well, can't find a nice guy anymore. It's because guys aren't stepping up. It's like, we've been saying that. We say it's performance based. Your frame is based on performance. You men must become and just are. We put it in a different terminology, but they're saying exactly the same thing, but they don't want to have us on the show. They will never have us on there because we ruin their narrative every time we do this. And just us having this right now, I guarantee you there's going to be some clips and these ads are going to clip it and they're going to go, well, see, they're the misogynists we thought they were.
Well, the problem too with these people, right, that I've noticed with like these psychologists and these like, academics or whatever, the problem with academia, and I've noticed this from going to college campuses. See, this is why I want to have this conversation with you guys.
They want to say it and we're saying it already, so they go, don't listen to those guys.
Because I couldn't have this conversation with these bro. Like, I just had to get them out of here. They're annoyed and they were pissing me off. I was like, get the fuck out of here. I want to talk about these with these guys. So I've noticed this when I go to the schools, like with academia in general. Yeah. It's becoming dominated, and it's getting to a point now, it's dominated where psychologists and people that do stats and people that do these studies, they don't even want to do certain studies that will put in an unfavorable light because it's dominated by females, right? And they try to do this with Jordan Peterson, get him off the board. And psychology is starting to become dominated by, and since it's becoming more dominated by, guys can't even run real
I can give you numbers
anymore.
on that. The psychology in all theaters, in all areas of psychology, whether it's research or it's psychotherapy or whatever else, since 2018 or 2017, they were already showing, it was the APA, as a matter of fact, the American Psychological Association, were giving these numbers as the gender skew. This was in 2018. I have this like in one of my Twitter bookmarks, as a matter of fact. But it had, by 2018, it had already been a decade long to have them all in to have
camera make to have
women in those positions in every aspect of psychology.
Yeah, and I've seen this, like I said, like women dominating the psychology field, and then obviously when you put the lens on things, now you can't be as objective. Now you have to be cognizant of feelings and not coming off as a misogynist, because there is a deep fear I'm realizing in the field of psychology of like coming off as like misogynistic or bigoted or whatever. And obviously that's going to affect how you do studies and how you do things, because you don't want to come off in a certain way. You want to get funding. Are they going to fund you if you come off as a misogynist? Probably not. And the other thing also is with that said, with these fields being more dominated, even the guys that are coming in, you mentioned a couple of these weirdo that are over here saying like, oh well, these guys in the red pill are extreme or they're wrong or whatever, and it's like, no dude, because we're blending the psychology and the studies with like practical reality of like how actually move in 2026, and they don't like that because it's not like a peer-reviewed study. Well, guess what, let's be honest, are we going to get a peer-reviewed study? They're going to be honest about their sexual proclivities? Of course not. So well, like for instance, like and I've fought against this every time I have to deal with this, but like because we encounter the same problem, but one of the things that everyone was saying is like, well, you have those on there and you're cherry picking them because they're
me more angry. Nothing makes me more angry when it's like every girl on your show's a sex worker. Remember that one time we had, hey guys, how many of you guys have an OnlyFans? Nobody on the show raised their hand. And I was like, I guarantee you no one will clip this. No one will show this because your narrative has to be, even like, I love Deborah So's new book, Sextinction. It's a terrific book. But even she talked about ditzy girls on these shows. No, this is not ditzy girls. I talked to thousands of this is in general. It's not that they literally don't have the horsepower to understand these concepts. It's just they are so distracted because social media has melted their brain. It has caused an amazing level of brain rot. And you might say, well, why isn't it happening to men? Because men don't use social media as much as they don't suffer from depression, ADHD, or neurotic behavior or neurotic tendencies because of social media. The data is clear. It's not my data. It's Jonathan Haidt's data. It's not my data. It's Deborah So's data. These are political progressive liberals. This is Richard Reeves' data. The child care gap, the pay wage gap. It's not real. I didn't say that. The head of the senior fellow at the Brookings Institute. He's the one who said that, not me. And so when I repeat these things, then it's like, well, what you're saying is misogynistic. Well, it can't be misogynistic if it's true. And I understand, like, by the way, like there are guys in this space who say things that are misogynistic. I totally understand that. That's not my issue.
They're all in the chat.
Yeah, my issue is if I say something that you don't like, it cannot be bigoted if it's true. It cannot be if it's true. That's the whole issue that I have. But yeah, well, like to what he's saying before, there's a lot of peer-reviewed data you're never going to get. That's why that one study I was talking about with the top 10% most promiscuous guys, that study comes from GSS data, where you just do the math after the fact, post-mortem. You go back and look at the data and you can come up with those numbers. That's the only way you could do that, and you have to live in another country to be able to pull that off. And so when you do that, then it actually works. But you're right, a lot of these things, the Institute for Family Studies it does have a bit of a conservative bent to it.
Like
it leans slightly right.
Christian, righty
and that's why you're able to do those to do that data. For those of you who don't know, the IFS did a study showing that who cheated in a relationship had 230% more sexual partners than who did not cheat in a relationship. And so you see these numbers and it's like, hey, that whole thing that Project Pat said about don't turn into a housewife? Turns out there's data to support that. But you can't, it's still true. It's like you can't.
But if it comes from you,
but if it comes from me, then it's a problem.
It comes from Alex Cooper.
The other thing that like people don't understand also is like they'll get mad and they'll say, oh, you got these on your show, because that's the same criticism I get. What they don't get is like the only difference between like a regular chick and an OnlyFans girl, or like a regular girl that does social media, or a regular girl that does any type of like entertainment or sex work, is like the sex worker, the OnlyFans girl, etc. They're just going to be more pronounced in the way they do things.
Sure.
Like it doesn't change the fact that like they have the same natural attraction triggers, proclivities, whatever. It's just that the OnlyFans girl or the streamer or the entertainer, they might just be a bit more ostentatious about it, but that doesn't change the fact that like they're both like still looking for the same
So
Nine.
the thing, so if anybody's watching this and you think that the chicks that were here were like cherry picked just so that we could like dump them off the show, we do this. We have to. You know how hard it is to book girls in
No,
Vegas?
that part is hard too. But listen,
or in God forbid, like Santa Barbara for whatever. It's insane.
I have an idea. If we're wrong, then some other content creator. It's very simple how you can prove us all wrong. You do your own panel show and you cherry pick for women who have master's degrees, hyper intellectual, no or sex workers. You do that and you're going to do about one episode. You're going to get about halfway through one episode and come to the realization that the answers are not similar. They're exactly the same as the answers that you're going to see here. And when you see a who legitimately has a PhD in psychology and she can't name 3 countries, then you will finally come to the realization that there is no cherry picking here. It is not a function of a lack of intelligence. Data shows women and men on average have about the same IQ. That is not the reason. The problem is there's this icing on the cake, this magical thinking, this feeling vibe, magical thinking that colludes. Again,
energy.
If I have 140 IQ, but I'm suffering from schizophrenia, how can I use my IQ? It's polluted. The problem is what's happened is the brain rot, specifically from social media, is causing who have the intellectual horsepower to still not be able to grasp these concepts because the feels come into it. You want a job in STEM, but you believe in astrology. How is that real? How can I don't understand how we can even do this. You believe in 5 love languages and you how the am I supposed to take you seriously when you do this stuff? And so that's where the issue is.
Well, I was going to say that whenever this just recently came up because of the Louis Theroux fallout and everything that came in the wake.
All right, turn
of
on
that.
all the other streams. Let's go. We're having a real conversation now. Thank God we got rid of the
all
women.
of this. Okay, came in the wake of it, and Big Mo knows exactly what happened, right? Because I was on Access Vegas one time, and people were throwing that at us, saying you cherry pick these. Well, what people don't know is that you guys have been keeping track of all the girls that have been on this show, where they're from, what their degrees are, what country they're from, what state they are from. And I mean, for the last, 6 years. And every time I get this topic, I go and I hit a Big Mo and I get, text me the list again so I can go throw out the numbers here and prove you wrong again.
Here's the issue.
And again.
If you were able to let's just say we were able to take artificial intelligence, go through the answers of every girl who was on here who was not a virtual sex worker or an actual sex worker. We only listened to who had master's degree education or higher, and we only collated the answers to just those. We did this for whatever podcast, Fresh and Fit, and we did it for Access Vegas, and then Cooley's. What's his podcast? I forgot what it's called.
No Fugazi.
No Fugazi. We'll say we did No Fugazi, we did Fresh and Fit, we did whatever podcast, Access Vegas, and we only took who had master's degree or higher. The problem that you're going to find very quickly is it's the same answers.
Let me tell you the difference between educated and regular. The educated are going to be more 10 toes down on their stupidity and more 10 toes down on delusion. So I've debated the professor at University of Florida, right? And this chick was actually, I don't know if she was a TA or full-on professor, but when I said, men and women are different biologically, like men are superior in this way, like she was like, what? Like she couldn't even concede that men are physically superior to women. Like, if you can't concede that, then we aren't even living on the same planet and we can't even have a conversation because you can't even acknowledge a biological fact. So if you can't acknowledge that, then there's nothing to build off of. And this is where we're going in academia. It's being dominated by women to the point where they are muddying the waters of biological realities, right? Because as usual, when it comes to progressive leftist, this like super woke ideology, it can't actually stand the test of truth and evidence or empiricism. It has to deal with, make believe and feels and whatever. Yeah, so
who would any of the 3 of us not debate? Who would any of us not debate? I can name for you 100 people who would not debate us. Yeah. Is it because we don't exist and you've never heard? You are so terrified to debate us. I'm curious. Hold on, Louis. Just out of curiosity, why didn't you ask me on your show? I'm curious why you did that. I'll tell you why. Because every other word, cut
every time, make him look bad.
Every other word out of my mouth would have been a peer-reviewed study. Every other word. I know what you're going to do because you're like the 4th guy to try to do it to me. But you knew that too, which is why you stayed away from me and Rollo. You knew every word out of our mouth was going to be a peer-reviewed study, and we don't call names ever. You would have had no luck with us. You interviewed Logan DeWong. Yeah, you did, Louis. You interviewed Logan DeWong, and Logan did not give you any answers you wanted, and so you cut him completely out of your show. And I'll tell you one other thing. Shout out to Justin Waller.
For people who don't know what he's talking about, we did an interview. We did a show with Logan where he was telling us the whole story.
They were trying
about that.
so
hard. He cut out the majority of the interview with him too, where I explained everything to him. Polygamy, all this other stuff. Cut all that out. Thankfully, I recorded my own part and I showed it, and it was like, oh, there's a whole other thing. But
I did the same thing with CBS. Shout out to you guys. They were really nice to me, but I recorded the whole thing with a DJ. I had it inside my Pacola.
Oh, they want to interview us. I said, no, we have to record our own thing. They wouldn't do it because we said we're going to record our thing. That's exactly
what Logan said, something similar. But I want to say this other thing. Louis, guys, can you do, for all of you who are still left here, put a 1 in the chat if you know this isn't true. If Louis Theroux's wife allowed him to have the same arrangement that Justin Waller's wife had, that he wouldn't take it in 1 second. Put a 1 in the chat if you know that if Louis Theroux's wife was like, honey, I want to start having threesomes with you, that all of a sudden Louis Theroux and his progressive wokeness would be like, no, I would never have threesomes with you, honey. That's incredible. If you know that isn't true, put a 1 in the chat. No, Louis, if you try to make Justin Waller look bad, you gravely underestimated what the rest of us thought. I saw a man who has 3 beautiful children with a wife who loves him in a beautiful house in Louisiana. I'm sorry, you lost on that. That was the most ridiculous one of all of them to me.
Yeah.
So because we do get that criticism a lot from these guys that claim to be whatever. I remember there was this redhead that would always go at me on TikTok saying XYZ. And you know what I like? The data is finally starting to catch up to what we've been saying, right? You gave this data before about 58% of the women were having sex with
their sexual relations, meaning their individual occurrences of sex were happening with the top 10% most promiscuous men. Do the math if you guys want to look at it.
And that's the women that are being honest.
Yeah, yes.
That's the crazy part. Right. It's only more than that.
Yeah.
Right? This is just the women that are being honest. What have we been saying forever? First it was maybe 20% of the guys were having sex with 80% of the women. Maybe the okay Cupid thing is right. As we've predicted, it's been getting less and less and less. You know what else I've noticed? As we have more and more of these girls on the show, they become ruder and ruder and ruder. And then I'm seeing as the women are becoming ruder and ruder and ruder, and their expectations go up and up and up, less and less men are getting laid. And that's why we're coming into this where I think at this point, they're saying 10%. I'd argue it's probably even less than that. We're being charitable saying 10%. So, and then, you add in the fact that the alcohol, right? That's a huge component because a lot of guys, let's be honest, have a difficult time with talking to women without some liquid courage.
Sure.
It used to be, I'm going to go out on the weekend, I'm going to drink, I'm going to go meet some, etc. 20, 30 years ago, which I'm sure you guys could probably talk about nightlife in the 90s versus now. But there's been a huge drop off from 1991 to life, or the 1990s to now when it comes to talking to women and going to the club, because women now are more concerned with social media, taking pictures, conveying a certain lifestyle versus actually meeting men. And, and that's where it went into the hierarchy of priorities when they're going out. First is validation, then it's pictures, then it's getting some free drinks, maybe getting some opportunities, whatever. And I would argue that men are 6th, 7th, 8th on the list. And those guys that are 6th, 7th, 8th on the list are top tier guys only. The best looking guys that can offer us something. Maybe they got a section, whatever. So it's for the average guy, I think a lot of them are waking up. Obviously we've seen the red pill explode over the past 5 or 6 years. And I find it interesting how as the red pill's gotten more popular, what have guys been doing? I need to lock in. I need to make more money. I need to get in the gym. I'm not going to drink alcohol like that anymore because it doesn't serve me, right? Because I'm going out, I'm spending all this money, and the girls don't even want to be with me. And we have to kind of wake I do think that a big part of the reason why young men aren't drinking as much is because of the explosion of popularity on TikTok. When I go up and people come and ask me for a picture, I like to ask them all the time, how'd you find me?
Yeah, of course.
Instagram, TikTok, every single time. I've been banned on TikTok for years. Instagram, I'm banned. I'm not on there right now. So that means that the clips are going viral. They're getting shared because guys are waking up and realizing what's going on. And I think the most telltale stat here is that men and women between 18 and 25, the women are drinking more and they're binge drinking at the same level. And men, they're drinking, and it's only maybe 1 or 2% that the men are drinking less. But that's huge compared to before, where it was always men that were drinking excessively. But now we're seeing the are drinking at the same rate and the men have dropped off. What does that tell you? Well, guys are kind of waking up and realizing that nightlife and alcohol in general it just doesn't serve them because it's young men that are kind of dropping off.
What I'm looking at right now is and you can apply.
How much did they lose? The last thing I'll say. How much did they used to work in the liquor industry? How much money is billions that they've lost, right?
Over the past. Yeah. Well, I mean, we were even when I was working in wine and spirits, we were watching the drop off happen where from guys and win more and more. In fact, we had to actually cater advertising and marketing for. You know when it started? It started during Sex in the City, because Appletinis and Cosmos.
Yes.
And all that. And drinking more and more and more after that. And there was even, I remember.
So you saw this trend in the early 2000s?
Yeah, I was still working at Van Gogh Vodka when this was happening. And so like when I worked in wine and spirits, the marketing was directed towards, because that's where the money was at that time. And there's, shows like Sex and the City was certainly a catalyst for that. But then you notice over time, there was more and more who were drinking. We even I remember one time we had there was a push for skinny girl vodka or skinny. I don't know if it's still around, but there's like a they
Jennifer Aniston.
Yeah, you couldn't call it a diet kind of liquor, but that was one marketing thing. It's been going on really since the mid 2000s as far as alcohol is concerned. But what I was going to say is I don't know if you've seen this. Well, I know you have, but recently there's been some statistics shown of, I think it was from like 2000 all the way up to 2026, and they look at the level of like conservatism versus liberalism, like on the line there.
Yes.
And there's a line for men and there's a line for
women. Have become more liberal.
30. Well, it dropped a little bit off recently, but at one point, I think it was in 2021, you're looking at a 30-point difference.
Yes. From
liberal, wokesy liberal to men who have stayed relatively constant. But the thing is they want to, as far, popular media, whatever, popular culture wants to present the idea that men have become radicalized, that all these men have suddenly become these super conservative MAGA, foaming at the mouth, we got to get back into the kitchen and we got to repeal the 19th and everything you could possibly think of as being this really horribly conservative, caveman mentality that they can exaggerate to the point of, exhaustion. The thing is that it's not men who have really changed their political, bent all that much. It's who have changed more drastically towards the liberal. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because we live in a gynocentric social order, because we base our social understanding, the norms, on a correct experience of life, because we think of things in terms of what serves her needs, everything else. What we've done is we've taken that and we've made that the normative. So if are 30 points skewed towards the left, that gulf between men and looks like men have become radicalized because are just normal. We haven't done anything. And so now those guys seem like they've been radicalized by you, by me, by him, by everybody else. The fact of the matter is that no, it's who have skewed more towards the wokesy side of things. And I know I'm going to quote Helen Thomas right now, or Helen Andrews, because the psyche that collectivism, egalitarianism, communitarianism, all the stuff she's talked about when it comes to psychology, the academia, whether it's the workplace, everything she talks about in different sectors of society have become more feminized. And I'll take her to the task on here. It actually started in the late 90s. It didn't start like in the last, since 2020. I think we've been paying more attention to it since 2020, but it started way before then. But because the experience is the correct way to think about things, anything that deviates from that seems like radicalism. Anything that deviates from a norm looks like it's those toxically masculine on Fresh and Fit and Access Vegas and all the rest of these guys. And we're the ones who are on DHS watch lists because of that, right? Now that's from political stance. Now take that and put that into just social stuff. Put that into entrepreneurship, put that into psychology, put that into the law, put that into, like, if you look at all the sectors where we have sort of moved in and dominated, anything that deviates from that norm, that 30-point skewed norm, is now seems like aberrant. It seems like there's something very wrong with those guys. So when we talk about, like, and this drives me insane, and it does, like, whenever one brings up, emotional intelligence, and I have to point out and say, there's no such thing as emotional intelligence. They lose their minds. Why? Because the experience is the norm, and men are just, you need therapy. So men going to therapy are sexy. Why is that? Because there's that gulf between men and women when it comes to that ideology in the political sense, but that political ideology is also reflective of just the narrative, the social fabric that we have right now. So it's not just politics, it's the difference in how men and women think are correct, because the narrative, the gynocentric social order, is the correct way to think, and anything that a guy thinks is wrong. There's some, you need therapy.
Well,
you need to be fixed.
Well, there's one other part, which is the narrative. Whatever the narrative is, it's shifting more. This is like such a key point. Are affected more by social media than men.
Oh, yeah.
There's nobody, like even people on the left agree with this concept. And so if your viewpoint can be changed, it's just we as men, because of individualism, I don't know if you want to call it testosterone or whatever, the stoicism and our immovability or our immutability, we're less affected in general, especially the thought leaders, by stuff we see on social media. We just are. I'm not saying that there aren't people who are radicalized. Obviously, there wouldn't be flat earth if people weren't enough to believe it's on social media. But in general, women are moved more, and that data from New Statesman is part of what proved it. Right. We're supposed to be the ones who hate women, but 7% of men had a negative view of 21% of had a negative view of men. And I kept showing all this data about 62 million men joined a academy, about all these men of these one clip after. There's 100 clips right now you guys can find of saying men should start in jail and work their way out. Yep. And nobody cares. And right now, if you guys want to have some fun, let's do some right now. Do me an experiment if you don't believe this is true. Right now, I want you guys to go to Spotify or Apple Podcasts and look up a podcast called Kill All Men. Go ahead and look up that podcast and tell me if it's still up there, because nobody took it down. And then I want you to consider, I'm not even going to say it on Rumble, if I made a podcast called Kill All the Other Thing, what would happen to me? If you honestly, I want you to consider how many.
We're back on all the platforms.
We're back
on Kick and everywhere else. Because I want people to hear this conversation because it's very important. Sure. And then we also need to react to the and reach situation. Get rid of the so that we can have a real discussion.
Sure. I want you guys to consider how many forces are against us. I am, of the three of us, I'm probably the most moderate, and I have been demonetized, I have been ratioed, and I have been deplatformed. I want you to consider all the things that are against us. And then I'm going to tell you guys a story, okay? I'm not going to tell you what their names
look at
are.
People like Chris Williamson.
Yes.
How are they still, you gotta, the thing is that you can't be blunt and as honest as you want to be.
Yes.
If you want to talk about this topic. You have to dance around it. Did you know he did an interview with Tate and he shelved it?
Yes.
Oh, yeah?
Chris so desperately wants to say what the truth is, but he knows he can't because of the way he knows.
He knows better.
For instance, if it was a situation,
hold on for 1 second, just to give you a quick one. Jay Shetty, when Jim,
it's not just Jay Shetty.
James Sexton was on with Jay Shetty, and he was using our names, like he was actually saying Rolo, Tomassi, and Mike Sartain for like 5 or 7 minutes on the most recent interview that he did with Jay Shetty. Jay Shetty cut out every mention of our
Jay Shetty. He went on Diary.
I don't even know who the fuck this guy is.
He went on Diary of a CEO. Guys, every time James Sexton goes on a show and he mentions us, they cut it out of the show. It happens over and over again. If I'm wrong, then debate me.
That's
please.
insane, dude.
Just debate. If I'm wrong, then have me on your show and just have the reason why you don't want me on your show is not because your audience isn't going to like me. The reason you don't want me on your show is because your audience is. I'm going to start to make sense, and you're not going to know. Tom Bilyeu's wife, you're not going to know how to square the circle when what I say, I won't use any profanity. I won't say nothing. I'm going to go on there and it's going to be 25 peer-reviewed data sets after another. And I'm going to quote from books written by political leftists agreeing with every single thing I say. And you're not going to have any counter argument. So you won't have me on your show. Tell me who I won't debate. Tell me who I was on this stage sitting right here against Destiny right here. Who will I not debate? But you don't want me on there. And that's the problem, because you understand what's going to happen. And by the way, that's why Charlie Kirk got shot, because he wasn't afraid to debate anyone. And he kept making people look worse and worse and worse. And so that's essentially what's going on here, guys. Think about all the people, all the pressure against us, all the demonetization, all these times. And then I'm going to tell you guys a story, okay? And you guys can probably figure out who these two people are if you try hard enough. I have two friends. One of them took my program, Men of Action, and the other one is just a guy who's a buddy of mine who used to be a pickup artist. Both of them have changed to turn into full pandering. All they do is make content that's pandering. They don't believe in anything they're saying, Myron. They know that what they're saying is one of them has 900,000 followers on TikTok, and the other one has 300,000 followers on TikTok. And they fully know that what they're saying is complete and total. And the algorithm, the algorithm explodes for them. Hundreds of thousands of new followers and views because they say pandering stuff. Chris GQ Perry comes out there and says that you should leave your man. You can tell if your man is cheating on you because of a dream that you had, a dream? A dream? How is this shit not taken down? How is there not context added to that? There's still thousands of videos up there saying 62 million men joined a academy and they haven't been taken down. How is this possible? If we're so wrong and everyone is trying to demonetize us and get rid of us, if we're so wrong, why are we still here? Why do we still exist? Why do so many people listen to us and watch us? Unless what's happened is they go outside and they come to the realization that their experience is exactly what we've been describing. They go on dating apps and they get 6 matches for every 1,000 right swipes. They get ignored. We'll sit there and break up with them and they get the ick and they'll get ghosted by who really shouldn't even be, like they shouldn't even be giving these a chance. You have men who will make tons of money, incredibly good shape, and they have to work so hard just to get an average to go out with them. They're having the same experience that we've been describing. If what we're saying is so wrong, then why haven't we disappeared? If what we're saying is so wrong, why won't you debate us?
I don't even want a debate. I just want a conversation. Just put us on the same.
I was going to say,
because we ruin their narrative.
People,
that's why.
I will say this: a lot of these people, like in the, I guess you could say, like the academia side of intersexual dynamic discussions, they're blackballing us for sure. I know because I had asked Jerry Bliss to come on. I didn't get a response, whatever. And it's like, dude, we have a big platform. You don't want to come on. But that tells me that like they're more terrified of the association, even though it would be beneficial to them, because associating with, I know you were able to get them on, but you're a bit more analytical. Yeah. You're not as politically incorrect as me. Whether or like Chris Williamson, it's like you talk to all these no names, right? All these people that are completely irrelevant. On this topic, no one knows who they are. They have no following. 1,000 people on Twitter here, maybe a YouTube channel with 500 followers here. No motion, but you constantly bring them on and they bash us, and you don't even allow us to go on there and defend ourselves.
Right.
That's what. Look, Chris Williamson, Dyer with CEO, Jerry, but all these guys, these academics that they are claiming to be. I don't care if you guys don't like us or whatever. Don't bring people on your show that bash us all the time, right? Sometimes by name, and then not allow us to come on and defend ourselves. And the thing also is like, because here's the thing I want to say. There's obviously been a very strong shift against this. As this topic has exploded in popularity since 2021, right? I would say with the rise of us, Andrew Tate, you guys, and this stuff has become more and more mainstream, right? And because we kind of blew up when we brought you guys, we were like, yo, Andrew, Rollo, all of us come, you guys, let's wake everybody up. Like, let's make this thing. It started, that's when I remember when I was going like viral on TikTok talking about this stuff, because it was an unheard concept to put in their place in 2021. That's why we're going super viral.
I remember that, man. I remember when I was on here and you had, OTEP Jesus, but then you had like Aaron Clary, myself. You started getting all these other guys that are on here.
And then we started blowing up on TikTok. Started talking to girls.
I remember when you guys got to 100,000 and then I got to 100,000 the month after.
Yeah.
And I was on the show when that happened too.
And I'll tell you why.
Bringing us along, man. Yeah, it was
now that I can look back on it, the problem why the manosphere, or like the red pill or whatever, all this content never blew up or took off, even though it was based in truth, is because guys would look at a camera, complain about women all day. That's all they did. Suck, red pill this, hypergamy this, MGTOW, blah, blah. They would just sit there and bitch about women all day. We came in and we said, you know what? Yes, we know they're annoying. Here's a solution. And on top of that, let me show you guys in real time how these women think about you. That's when everybody started. Because it's one thing for us to talk about, hey, here's the red pill truth about women. Like, for example, I'll talk about how, like, girls, have certain things on Instagram to purport a certain lifestyle because they're trying to have social status. Then we bring girls on, and then they confirm it on the show. We do a Womanizer Wednesday. We cover a red pill topic. Then we bring girls on, and then they're seeing with their own two eyes say exactly what we told them on the show. That's powerful. And then that sort of stuff started to go viral. People started to wake up. We bring you on the show. We bring Andrew Tate on, blah, blah. And it starts blowing up. Then you get people like, whatever podcast saying, we want to do this, new Fugazi, fine, whatever. They copy the format, no issue, because more people are waking up. I don't really give a shit about that, because the more guys we wake up, the better. So this stuff starts to take off, right? Then they realize, oh, the genie's out the bottle. We got to do something. Obviously, Andrew Tate is the most prominent guy in this thing. What did they do? We got to put him in jail. The UK put a full ban on him. This guy is influencing young guys to go in and say, and what color's your Bugatti? This is bad. So then we started seeing the systemic censorship of this type of content. First, it starts with Andrew Tate. Get him out of here. Ban him off everything. Then they demonetize us. Then they demonetize Pearl. They demonetize you guys. The only people that really worry that didn't get attacked by this were the like Chris Williamson, etc. That like, okay, we know that these guys are right, but on purpose of us preserving our platform, we have to like admonish them and then not platform them. And like that's why like Chris Williamson couldn't ignore Andrew.
So much so that they will delete the mention of your name.
Yeah, and this is what made me realize that these guys are. Obviously, Andrew was like the most Google man on earth, right? So you could not ignore that. You had to, have him on at some point. But he's so much of a coward that he brought Andrew on and he shelved the interview. He shelved the interview. And I was like, wow, like you are that scared of getting a different perspective that isn't, tainted by or tainted by the gynocentric, source order of political correctness that you kept them out. And then you haven't. And then the other thing that annoys me is like, you haven't talked to anyone prominent in the sphere, but you bash people from the sphere all the time. And it's like,
yeah, that's my biggest issue. Like, I'll be honest with you. Myron, let's just say,
piss me off.
Let's just say,
don't bring people to talk shit about us.
Exactly.
That's what gets me angry.
Let's just say I disagree with everything you have to say. I disagree with everything you have to say, Rollo. Let's just say I feel that way. I still, being an independent observer, still think it's Chris, if you want to have these discussions about intersexual dynamics, that's totally fine. But when you bring people on to talk about these ideas and you don't let us defend ourselves on your show, there's no way, even your audience has to see the hypocrisy there. That is so insane to me. And I don't, by the way, in all fairness to Chris, he's not a debater. So it's not, I've never done a debate, or at least that I've seen. So I wouldn't put him in, because that's what would happen if he tried to challenge our beliefs. And I understand that. And I don't mind if Chris doesn't want to have me or you on. I get it.
I don't care.
If he had you on, half his staff would probably get up and walk out. I get that.
Yeah.
Chris, you're forgiven. Whatever. Your land acknowledgements, I get it. The problem is, if you're going to do that, then stop talking about us.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I would say is just stop talking about us. And the problem,
they go in and say, like, Sadia Khan goes over there and just rails on all of us.
Yes.
And a couple other people as well. They literally go in there and they just rail on us. And I'm like, yo, what the fuck? Like, this is like, you're bringing them in here.
Or I think a lot of the times, I think they understand, and I think bigger names,
and it's constant,
like for lack of a better term, A-list podcasters, they know that their audience wants to hear about this. They know that their audience, hey, what's this manosphere? They can't ignore the fertility crisis. They can't ignore the male loneliness thing. They can't ignore marriage rates. They can't ignore the quote unquote gender divide. However you want to carve that out. They can't ignore those. It's come to the point where it's so epic, it's so unignorable now that they still because they know that they can make, they can get numbers, they can get engagement for doing those shows, but they can't bring us on to talk about those topics. So who do they get? Louise Perry, again and again, and I'm I don't
even know these people.
I'm bored.
I don't even know these people,
because
Rollo,
it's the seventh or eighth time she's been on there.
They're published authors who publish things.
Louise Perry is. She's a journalist. She's not a psychology. I mean, at least Huberman he's Huberman, right? But even when he's on there with Huberman's saying something to the effect like, "Oh, it's great when you have when you take a girl on a date and you move to like 3 different venues or something like that." And it's psychologically it creates this narrative like you have a longer date or there's more emotional investment, whatever. He goes through the psychology of this. First thing out of Chris Williams' mouth is oh yeah, it's like those pickup artists back in the day. They weaponized this back then. I'm like, when Mystery talks about it in 2005, it's weaponized. But when Andrew Huberman talks about it in 2026, it's just the way things are. It's just it has more legitimacy. I'm like, why is one weaponized and the other one not?
Yeah, let me tell you this.
Because
this is the real problem.
They're the manosphere and he's not the manosphere.
This is the real problem. And this we can actually use this to perfectly segue into reach. They know that the information is correct, and since they know that the information is correct and we're correct on our assessment on the current dating marketplace, and to be honest with you, I think we've been ahead of the curve. We've talked about being hypergamous and getting a minority of the men saying that, girls are probably hooking up with maybe less than 10% or less than the men. Now the study comes out a couple of days ago that vindicates what we're saying. We're seeing a lower consumption of alcohol. We're seeing the male loneliness. We're seeing 1/3 of guys completely sexless at this point, which is, I think, is it even less than back in 2020 study? Or
no, the 2018 study that we showed before was at 23%, and now we're at I think 31 or 32%.
So everything is going as we've been saying or predicting. They can't debate the topic. So what they have to do is they have to attack the people. They'll call me a misogynist. They'll call you guys pseudoscientists or misogynists or whatever. And then this perfectly segues into someone like an Abba and Preach, who have made a career on attacking, people like us. When I went on Flagrant, the first thing that Akash and Andrew Schultz say, well, isn't this a little extreme? This is kind of crazy. What do you mean have these traits or whatever? I'm like, look, they have these certain traits that, 187 pounds on average. They have the stereotypes, etc. We don't date them. It is what it is. Well, why do you think the way that you do about, well, you got to understand that the sexual marketplace has changed. We're more selective, blah, blah, blah. Oh, well, you guys are immature. You guys are stupid. Simps and pimps. That's stupid. And then fast forward a couple of years, his wife is the exact same type of demographic that I tell guys to avoid.
Textbook
and
example.
she's embarrassing him all over the place, talking about frat boys this. I was popping my that, blah, blah. So we were right. So, and then Abba and Preach, oh, these red pill guys don't know what they're talking about. They're extremists, whatever. What's Abba? What's going on with Abba? He around and he thought he was impervious to
exactly
nature.
The same thing we talked about.
And it comes back to what it is. They're more concerned with us than the message that we're trying to put out here, which we're fucking correct.
They're they're anti-manosphere. Do you understand? Like even to a certain extent, Chris Williamson, he's anti-manosphere. What do you stand for? Well, nothing. Not really. I don't stand for anything. What is your position? I'm anti-manosphere. But what does that mean? Like, what do you stand for? Like, what is the solution that you have to these problems? Well, I don't have a solution. I don't really understand anything. Like, can you do you understand? Like, their entire position is to negate another position. With Abba and Preach, like, part of the issue is like you understand, because they didn't say what we said, they had a boost from the algorithm we didn't have. Yeah. They weren't canceled the way that we were canceled. But here's the problem. They kept trying to cancel other people. Just same thing that Therapy Jeff did. Let me cancel all these other people. Same thing with the other thing about the Akash thing with Andrew Schultz is that they were bigger at that time. They were a bigger platform than you, and they're not anymore. But they were a bigger platform than you, and they're not only are they telling you you're wrong and that they're right, they're punching down on you. Yep. That is the part that is the craziest to me. You're punching down on someone so that you can tell them that you're right and they're wrong, and never even considered for a fact that you might be wrong. And then when you get embarrassed like this, it's like you sit there and try to defend yourself. No, you shouldn't have punched down. You're not going to find me doing this to anyone, because I know someday I'm going to screw up, and when I up, they're going to come after me, but I never try to get anyone canceled. Even people who lie about me. I don't want your account taken away. I'm going to call you out for being a liar. I can defend myself. I don't need your account. I don't need you to be reported. And that's the issue. It's like, even with all these, even like we're Sisyphus pushing the boulder up the hill, bro. And even with us pushing this boulder up the hill, with all this pressure against us, why are we still here? If you can't sit there and say that if I made pandering content that the algorithm doesn't help me, and that if I make man pandering content, or if I make content that's red pill, that the algorithm doesn't hurt me. You can't make that argument anymore. Everyone knows that's the truth. And even with that, why are we still here? How are we still here after all of this, after the boulder keeps rolling over us again and again and again? Why are we still here? And its reason why is because intelligent men who are in good shape and make a lot of money walk outside, and even they can't get a girl. I was going to say, even they can't get a girl. And now it's come to the realization, like, oh damn, can't deny him. And this has happened to you, and it's happened to you, and it's happened to me more than 1,000 times. Yo, bro, I watch your stuff, but I can't let people at my job know that I watch your stuff. I share your content, but I can't like your stuff. I have so many videos on Instagram that have more shares than likes. Go look it up if you don't believe me. They can't let their friends know that they like my Yo, man, I go out there and it's just so crazy. I can't deal with these. It's so nuts, but don't. I can't talk it because I work at a law firm and I can't say this shit, and I can't do anything. Dude, shout out to James Sexton for at least associating with us, considering like the position that he puts himself in, and because you can't deny it. You can't just keep denying it over and over again. So I'm going to ask you guys a question: why won't they debate us? Why are we continue to get demonetized, deplatformed?
And the debate would only help them, to be honest. Like, for sure, people, we're bigger than these. A lot of these guys, like a lot of these like academics that claim to be XYZ, they're not even big. Like nobody knows them. Like, okay, you wrote a book or whatever, but nobody gives a fuck. Like no one really knows or cares, or you don't have any real, like, I've realized that there's a difference between fame and influence. Like, do you have influence, right? And a lot of people, these people don't. So what I've come to realize, it's more about, okay, we just want to make sure that these guys don't get any more influence, or we're not going to help. Because if we platform them, they're going to make us look so.
So there's a saying, okay, and I'll quote it anyways, but you know how they always say that hate only comes from below? Yeah. Not always. Sometimes hate comes from above. Yeah. When they see you coming up in the rear view mirror. That's when it comes from above. That's when Flagrant is punching down at you because they saw you coming up. Yeah. And they want to say, oh, we better watch out for this guy. Yeah. And you know what?
We'll stifle them if we can.
Now you're on top, and everything they feared that they wanted to press you down for, all that's gone. Same thing with Abba and Preach. All that's
why don't we do this right now? I will make a bet that Sadia Khan, I'm sure you probably have some intern listening. Sadia Khan, Chris GQ Perry, Adam Can, Derek Jackson, Justin Baldoni, all of you together. I will bet you that us three little content creators, I have 200,000 followers on Instagram. I will bet you $50,000 right now. I have more testimonials than you do, and I have 1/10 as many followers. I will bet you right now that Will Hitchens, I don't give a fuck who you are, any of you panderers, with the three of us together, we will give you more testimonials of guys who said, I was going to take my own life and I didn't do it, and I've changed my life, and thank you for helping me change my life. I am a nobody, and I have listen to me, I am a nobody, and I have 100 times more testimonials from men than Sadia Khan. 100 times. Go to moamentoring.com/testimonials. Go to my Trustpilot reviews. I have a perfect score. Ask yourself this question. How is this possible? Take all these other panders, put them all together, and just show me one man who said, you know what? I was doing terrible in my relationship. Then I listened to Chris G.Q. Perry tell me to not go to the gym and go to therapy. And now I've got all the... Give me one. If there was one, I have more. I'm going to say this one more time. All these panders, Adam Kahn, whoever it is, I have more testimonials than all of you combined times 100. How is that possible? It's because you don't help anyone. What you said before is so incredible. Brittany Renner and Alex Hormozi, they have about the same number of followers, but Brittany Renner has nothing but fame and zero influence. Alex Hormozi can fill up a stadium and get people to pay $25,000, $50,000 for one-on-ones. There's a difference between fame and influence. And if what you're saying is so true, then go explain away my testimonials.